reaching his 30s, and he's doing great work already in Garvey's name. Okay, we seem like we got it working in perfect time. Next brother I'm going to bring forward, he's also, he's been with us for a few years now, and he's our legal defense committee coordinator, and he's just going to share a couple words before we begin. Attorney, let's welcome Attorney Imhotep.
Greetings. Imhotep Alkebulan. I'm known, hopefully among other things, as the attorney that would like to do some social engineering. I'm encouraging anyone who would like to correct their name, get rid of their European slave name, and reclaim their African name. Please see me. Okay? We do it for free. All right. All you have to do is pay the filing fee, and the attorney's fees are free. I don't care where you are at in the state of Georgia. We will go and file a petition so that you can correct your name and have your true African name, and it will do wonders for you. I can assure you. I recall when I corrected my name, the only thing I was mad about was I didn't do it sooner. But so if you want to see me and have your kids, do something for your kids. Okay, yeah, correct their names. I am an attorney. If you want a African conscious, a Garveyite lawyer, please come see me, make a referral. Be more than happy to help. I have a criminal defense practice and also an automobile collision practice. There's one experience I had here briefly. I practiced in Mississippi and Georgia. This past Tuesday, I had an appeal where the Mississippi Supreme Court scheduled the oral arguments in Holly Springs, Mississippi, at Ras College. And just so happens, for those of you who may know, Holly Springs, Mississippi is where Ida B. Wells was born. And she is an alumni of Ras College there. So they have the oral arguments in front of the students. They're on the college. And after the oral arguments, the judges introduced themselves, the lawyers introduced themselves, and I basically told them how proud I was to be on their campus and in their city where Ida B. Wells was born and graduated. And I told them that morning that I did my usual African spirited prayer, and that particular morning I did it in the name of Ida B. Wells, that she would, her spirit would encourage me and help me in my oral arguments. And I can tell you this, I was on fire. Yeah. And so we'll have to see. I don't have any trust in the court system of Mississippi nor Georgia, but we have to do what you have to do, and you need a fighter who's conscious and knows what you're up against, what we're up against here in this country. So if I can help you out at all, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The true African attorney Alkebulan. When he greets me and greets brothers and sisters, he says, "Greetings, African." And that's saying that we have to say too. And I believe that there was, okay, was there one more person who would have to share before we begin? Okay, glad we got this working. Is it working or just went off?
Yeah, no, we're ready to go.
Ready to go? Okay. So everybody has a program, so we're going to start with the welcoming. And I'm going to ask for our Lady President. Lady President, Queen Sassy, where is she at? Looking all
Greetings.
Yes, yes. How you doing? Okay, so, Brother John, were we gonna video your phone? It's recording that? It doesn't have, can it see the screen? Yeah. Because it might be a little far back. I was thinking.
Come here. It's not bad.
1 second, family.
It could be better. Man.
Okay.
What you think?
I think it's
So I need
good.
something to-
I was
need
saying
something
that
to
maybe
support
if we can put it
Right in front.
on a chair, right in front of the table. If we can put it over here, we want to make sure we record the program today. There's a lot of members asked us if they couldn't be here today, and we have some members that's outside Atlanta and outside a couple other states asked us that we can make sure that we record the program today. So we want to make sure, since we're getting ready to begin now, we want to make sure that everything gets recorded. As we're looking now. In the meantime, I want to welcome everyone to the local UNIA chapter here in Atlanta. I guess we want to get the welcome on the thing. As soon as the Abbott settings ready, I'm going to take a quick look at it, Brother John. Okay. You want to bring in that sign in a little bit? And it's all messed up. A little bit to the left. Good right there. Okay, good. Everything looking good. Twist it just a little bit this way. Okay, so it's on record now?
Yes, record that.
Okay, great. Okay, so again, we're going to begin the program now. I want to thank everyone for coming out, and I want to welcome you all in the name of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. I want to introduce myself. Come over this way so we can both be on camera. I don't want to really not be on camera. And Brother James, if you can hit the light for 1 second, so that way, thank you. Okay, brothers and sisters, I want to welcome you all. I want to introduce to you our Lady President for Division 421, Sister Queen Sassy.
Everyone, I'm so excited to see everyone here. It's just exciting. I don't speak much in public, so forgive me.
But she does a lot of work behind the scenes for our division. And I'm Ras Marvin, I'm the local president, and we worked hard to prepare this program today for everyone. And I just want to make sure that when everyone leaves today, you have everything that you need and everything you're supposed to have. Everyone should have, number one, you should have the program for today that outlines what we're going to do. Number two, the flyer for today, keep it as a collector's item. This is our first ever division orientation. Okay? And which one, what do you need? This one? This is our first ever division orientation. We never had one, and our division was formed from 2009. So this is the first one in 10 years. Other UNIA divisions have them regularly, but with our division, what we have to understand is that we had to build it from scratch. The only thing we got was a constitution from the parent body, and from that, everything else we have to develop. Make sure everybody has a pledge, and make sure you teach it to your children and learn it yourself.
Hang it up, frame it.
Huh?
Don't hang it up.
Frame, exactly.
It's beautiful. Put it
That's
in a
right.
frame like
That's
this.
right.
Make sure everybody has a member's checklist. Okay, this is a checklist of the requirement for all members, and it's probably gonna take about 2 years to go through this. And today you're just gonna have an outline of what we're supposed to do as UNIA. But make sure you have this and you can keep it, and as you come to the mass meetings and the study groups, you can check off the different lessons and training requirements for us as division members. The other thing is, this here, go ahead and fill it out now. What this is just to let everybody know that the information we're sharing with the UNIA has to stay confidential. According to our Constitution says that our information is not for the white people, it's not for everybody, it's just for us as African people. So we ask everybody, the information that you can get through the training for the next 2 years and so on, if you can keep it confidential, don't post it on social media, don't email it to anybody, and so on, but let everybody know if they want this information, they can come to the division and get this information. And those who are not members of Division 421, you're welcome to take this information. The only information that non-members cannot take is the bylaws, and it's only the draft. But all the members, we have a draft copy of the bylaws for you, and we didn't hand it out yet. We have to staple it together. So go ahead and fill this out now and return it, submit it in. We're going to collect this now. Everybody for the training, this is a training application. Okay, next, everyone should have our schedule for 2020. So we have the whole year of 2020 schedule. Raise your hand if you didn't get it. Sister Felicia will bring it to you. Sister Felicia, you see everybody with their hands up? They need a 2020 schedule. Also, we made sure that we printed out the Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World, so everybody should have that. And we have the division certificates. And we had a little problem with our printer printing it, but we have a couple different versions. And Sister Sass, one of our members, member 124, she'll be hieroglyphically writing your name on the division certificate. Okay?
Calligraphically.
There you go.
Oh, hieroglyph.
Middle letter. This would be calligraphy.
Okay.
It's calligraphy.
Okay. What do you call your type of writing?
Calligraphy?
Calligraphy.
Okay, but
Right. Okay, great. So we're going to do this at the end of the program. Make sure you write your name clearly on the certificate, because Queen Sass is going to take the attendance list and start writing out everybody's certificate. Okay? And did we mention everything that everyone has to get? Okay. Yes, and I believe, oh yeah, and then the last thing is a copy of our presentation today. And we're stapling that, and we're gonna be handing it out in a second to everybody. Okay? Okay, so, how we begin? With the pledge. And do we take over the flag? Okay.
Yeah, we need flag. Well, James got one.
Right. I think we have the flags here, right here. Okay, we went ahead, but we have several different flags. The flag here, right here to the table. So at this time, we're going to ask everybody, if you can bring it right here to the front.
Everyone please rise and face the flag.
Face the flag and
Take your pleasure and read it while we say it.
right. But you want to definitely memorize it.
Hopefully everyone will take the flag home and learn it.
And we're keeping track of all of those who are certified in knowing the pledge. So once you know the pledge, definitely come to the office or connect up with us some way. And as long as you can say the pledge from top to bottom, from memory, then you'll be added to the certification list of the pledge for our division. Okay. Dear Lady President, we have higher requirements. Okay, brothers and sisters, please follow after me. I commit my body, mind, and spirit.
I commit my body, mind, and spirit
to the protection, defense, and security
to the protection, defense, and security
of the red, black, and the green.
of the red, black, and green.
I dedicate my life
I dedicate my life
to the redemption of Mother Africa
to the redemption of Mother Africa
and the liberation of her scattered black children.
and the liberation of her scattered black children.
I accept for myself and my descendants
I accept for myself and my descendants
the teachings of universal African nationalism
the teachings of universal African nationalism
and promise that our children will be instilled
and promise that our children will be instilled
with the purpose and knowledge of themselves
with the purpose and knowledge of themselves
as African people,
as African people,
in order that the cause of our struggle
in order that the cause of our struggle
will neither falter nor fail
will neither falter nor fail
until all black people are free and united
until all black people are free and united
through one God,
through one God,
one aim,
one aim,
one destiny.
one destiny. destiny.
Race first.
Race first.
Okay. I'm gonna turn the mic over to our third vice president. He's been with us a little bit over 2 years now, but he's done so much in the last 2 years that you can say he's been here with us forever. And wherever we need help, our third vice president, Brother John, always steps up, and he's become now our spokesperson for the division. So let's put our hand together for our third vice president, Brother John Hargrove.
Ron.
And he's going to go ahead and lead us through the presentation.
Thank you, President Ross. Before we go anywhere, I wanted to highlight something that President Ross told me about our pledge, well, about the pledge in general. But I think it's been beat into our memory, the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag. But how many of us know the pledge to the red, black, and green flag by heart? So this is our responsibility. We know their pledge. Do we know our own pledge?
Right.
So today we're going to go through a program for orientation. A few of the things that we're going to talk about is who is Marcus Garvey. That's one of the things that we have to touch on as red, black, and green and UNIA-ACL. We have to give people an understanding of Marcus Garvey, the founder of the UNIA. We want to talk about why Marcus Garvey started the UNIA-ACL. We'll give an introduction to what the UNIA-ACL is. We'll do an introduction of Division 421, so this division here in Atlanta, who we are and what we stand for. Introduction to the officers of Division 421, who the people are that are doing the work and representing the red, black, and green here in Atlanta. What Division 421 has done and where we are today. So we want to give a little bit of a history of what we've done in the past for the community and our plans as we move forward. Members getting involved. So that's one of the reasons why we're here today, is to help individuals and members understand what they can do to get involved and what they can do to help the organization as we move forward. Expectations of new members. So as you leave today, you'll understand what the expectations are of new as well as current members and anyone striving for a position of officer, to be an officer. Then we'll have some question and answers. And I want to kind of move quickly so that we make sure we can touch on the question and answers. We're a little bit behind schedule, so bear with me, please. And in the end, we'll close. We'll try to be out of here before 6. So the legacy of Marcus Garvey. I like to start with a quote by Martin Luther King. We're here in Atlanta. I think he's a well-known son of Atlanta, well-respected. He said, quote, Marcus Garvey was the first man of color in the history of the United States to lead and develop a mass movement. He was the first man on a mass scale and level to give millions of Negroes a sense of dignity and destiny, and to make the Negro feel that he was somebody. So we have to give respect to this individual, Marcus Garvey. So who is Marcus Garvey? As we talk about Marcus Garvey, we're going to break it up into 3 different sections. We're going to talk about his youth from 1887 when he was born to 1914 when he created the UNIA-ACL with his wife, Imhotep Garvey. Then we'll look at the second section, what we call building the UNIA, so from 1914 to 1920 when they established the government of the UNIA. And third, we'll look at from 1920 to 1940. So this is the time when Garvey was establishing, running the UNIA government, and then we'll talk about some of the obstacles, and we all know about the trial and deportation. We'll touch on that as well. So Marcus Garvey from 1887 to 1914. Marcus Garvey was born August 17, 1887 in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica. St. Ann's Bay is on the northern coast of Jamaica. At the time, from what I understand, it used to be a major port in the city, but over time that died down, and now it's just a former market. So that's where he was born. His parents, he talked about his parents. He described his parents as Negroes. He talked about his father. He said his father was strong and intelligent, and he said that his mother was soft and compassionate. He contrasted the two. He said that they were opposites. While his father was strong and I guess unforgiving, his mother was much more willing to forgive individuals. He was a childhood leader. He grew up in a mixed environment with growing up with white children and black children. Race was not an issue to young Marcus Garvey until the age of about 14. But even as a child, he was well respected as a leader. Then at age 14, actually, printer's apprentice should be prior to that. He became a printer's apprentice at the age of 12. By the time he was 14, he was managing full-grown men. But then also at the age of 14, he became aware of race. He realized that at that time, he realized that no matter how strong, courageous, and how much of a leadership characteristics he had, in some people's eyes, he would only be considered a nigger. Please forgive my language, but this is the language that we used at the time. So that's what he realized at the age of 14. No matter how much he did, to some people, he would only be considered by the color of his skin. Going a little bit quick. So after the age of 14, Garvey gets interested in politics and he travels to Europe. And coming back from Europe, or while he was in Europe, he picked up From Slavery, which is the autobiography of Booker T. Washington. In this book, while reading this book, Marcus Garvey felt that he got a call to become a race leader. He comes back to he comes back to Jamaica in 1914, and he started the UNIA. He started the UNIA based on the treatment that he saw as he traveled not only in Jamaica, but also in Europe. And he felt that this was a pervasive issue, that it was worldwide, and somebody needed to do something about it. One thing that he said was, where's the black man's government? Where's the black man's kings and queens? Where's our military, our army, our navy? Where are our men of high affairs? He said that he didn't see these things in his travels, and he declared that this would be something that he would help to create as we move forward. That's a picture of Haile Selassie, who is renowned in the Rastafari community. So Marcus Garvey from 1914 to 1920. So in 1914, July 19, 1914, in Jamaica, he founded the UNIA-ACL with his wife, Amy Ashwood Garvey. So this was as soon as he returned, or within a week from his return from Europe, he founded the UNIA-ACL in Jamaica. And he founded it again with his wife, Amy Ashwood Garvey. So from his readings of Up From Slavery, Marcus Garvey was very fond of Booker T. Washington, and he got in contact with Booker T. Washington. And he aspired to meet Booker T. Washington in the United States. So he traveled to let me make sure I'm saying this right. He eventually traveled to the United States. He had planned to meet Booker T. Washington, but Booker T. Washington died November 14th, 1915. And Marcus Garvey didn't arrive in the United States until March 16th, 1916. When he arrived in the United States, he went to New York City, New York. That was the mecca for our people at that time. So after 1916, traveling or coming to the United States, one thing that I read is Marcus Garvey traveled the 38 states, and he visited the grave of Booker T. Washington, and then he returned back to New York City. And when he returned to New York City, he began the creation of the African Communities League, which consisted of the Negro World newspaper, Black Star Line, Steamship Company, multiple black businesses, which led to the recruitment level of 10 million members by 1920. This excerpt here that you see is from Race First, the book Race First by Dr. Tony Martin, which shows some of the branches that were outside of the United States. And keep in mind of this information, because we'll touch on this later on in the presentation. Let me go back real quick. So, in building the UNIA and getting the membership to 10 million members by 1920, the foundation of the UNIA, and in order to recruit, was the 11 aims and objectives of the UNIA-ACL, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So these are the 11 aims and objectives of the UNIA-ACL. These are found in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 3. The first aim and objective is to establish a universal confraternity among the race. The word confraternity is another word for brotherhood, or collective. It's our job as members of the UNIA to rebuild the one body of our people with the exclusion of none. Garvey would say all for one and one for all.
That's right.
Today we say race first. This is our primary objective. Number 2 is to promote the spirit of pride and love. Garvey knew that we had an issue where we didn't respect and love ourselves. So as Garveyites, as members of the UNIA-ACL, it is our responsibility to promote the spirit of pride and love, and it is also our responsibility to love ourselves.
That's right.
Our ancestors, and Garvey has taught us that we have to have the understanding that God made us perfect, and He made us. You know, He didn't make us this color or this race by accident. So we have to accept that. We have to understand. We have to understand that. We have to have pride in that.
Teach, brother. That's right.
Number 3 is to reclaim the fallen. The fallen has many definitions. For us, it can imply drug, alcohol abuse, sexual confusion, victims of the Ma'afa and the American system. So for us, we have a responsibility. Anyone that is in this situation and request help, we have a responsibility to these individuals to reclaim their status as individuals.
Absolutely.
Number 4 is to administer to and assist the needy. Garvey just briefly says this is to be our highest call in life. Any member of our race that is in need, in genuine need, we are to provide assistance to those individuals. Number 5 is to assist in civilizing the tribes of Africa. Our ancestors felt that Africa is the land of our vine and fig tree, as they would say. It's the motherland, and we have a responsibility to cater to the motherland. And we treat Africa as the natural home of our people. So we only feel that us as a people can get as far as the motherland goes. So we have a responsibility to the motherland. Number 6 is to assist in the development of independent Negro nations and communities. So any nation or community which our people reside, it's our responsibility to help those individuals. One thing that I didn't say in the founding of the UNIA, in 1914, the UNIA was founded as the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities Imperial League. The organization was designed in its foundation to be an empire. It's not simply meant to be a nation. It is a government, but at the end, we're trying to pull nations together to form a racial empire. Number 7, this was a little complicated, but it's fairly simple once you get into it. Establish commissionaries of agencies in the principal countries and cities of the world for the representation and protection of all Negroes, irrespective of nationality. Basically what that means is we are to have embassies and ambassadors in any state, nation, or city where our people reside. For us, that individual is Ras Marvin, the president of Division 421. But his job and his responsibility is to cater to the needs of our people and to be aware of the needs of our people. But we need individuals like that in all of our communities. Number 8 is to promote a conscientious spiritual worship among the native tribes of Africa. In this one, in detail, Garvey says that we understand that our people have several different types of worship, from Christianity, Islam, Hebrew. There are several different modes of worship in different religions. But our people felt, well, Garvey and our ancestors felt that we should be brought under the belief of one religion and one God. And that is why the motto of the UNIA is one God, one aim, one destiny. We don't get into what that is or what that should be. We don't make that declaration, but we know that we as a people need to be under the belief of one God and one religion. Number 9 is to establish universities, colleges, academies, and schools for racial education and culture of the people. Fairly simple. We should have our own schools. Not only our own schools, we should have our own system of education. So we can't depend on our oppressors to educate our children.
Right.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Number 10 is to conduct a worldwide commercial and industrial intercourse for the good of the people. This is our goal, or the statement to discuss an economic plan. Garvey and our ancestors felt that we have to have a robust enough economy to where we can produce and provide for our own people. We shouldn't have to go outside of our people to provide for our people. We should have our own closed-knit system. And that's what this objective is talking about. Finally, number 11 is to work for the better conditions in all Negro communities. This one is just, if there was not anything listed specifically, we have to continue working. Garvey says for this one, there's no stone to be left unturned, and there's always work to be done in this endeavor. So, if there's anything left out, number 11 addresses it. So, Marcus.
Good job, my brother. Appreciate that. Very good job. Very, very good.
I'm handing out the presentation that you're seeing now, so everybody has a copy to take with you. So that way, yeah. It seems like we're short, but we'll give whatever we have here.
We showed them the statement. Okay, but I know we got enough. I think I got enough.
Okay.
So we'll look at Marcus Garvey from 1920 to 1940. So this is after the establishment of the government until Marcus Garvey's transition. So in 1920, August 1st, 1920 through August 31st, 1920 was the first Negro Convention. Let me pause here and express the gravity of this event, the way it's been explained to me. My president has taught me that at this time, for 31 days straight, our people met in Harlem, New York. They came from all over the world, different parts, and they had different priorities, but they had to make sacrifices in order to work together, to live together, eat together, sleep together for 31 straight days. And they made these sacrifices in order for us to have this government that we can continue to build as we move forward. So the first Negro Convention was August 1st to August 31st in Harlem, New York, and that's a picture from the first Negro Convention. One of the big takeaways from the first Negro Convention was the 5 requirements to establish a government. And these are the 5 requirements that our ancestors did in 1920 and beyond. The first requirement is to have a plebiscite. A plebiscite is a public declaration by the people. It's just a statement that publicly declares that the people wish to have their own government and to govern themselves and be self-reliant. That was done by our people August 1st, 1920 in Harlem, New York. The second is a declaration. The Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World was produced by the UNIA-ACL and released by the UNIA-ACL on August 13th, 1920. And you all have a copy of this now, which consists of 14 declarations that our ancestors created at that time, which still are relevant today. The third requirement is a flag. The red, black, and green flag was introduced to our people August 15th, 1920. The red is for the blood of our people, although we have different colors and different complexions, and we may come from different nations and be born in different places. It's the blood that binds us. That's right. And that's something that we can't change. The black is for the melanin of the original man. From what I've learned working with the Nation of Islam, they tell me that black's not a color, but it's the source of all colors. And that's what we think of as black. It's not an individual, it's the beginning of all humanity. Right. And green is for the land. Green is for the motherland of Africa, which we need to reclaim. It's been divided up by the Europeans since the Berlin Conference. It's our responsibility as the children of that land to reunite it and to make sure it prospers as we move forward. The fourth requirement is a constitution. UNIA-ACL first produced this constitution in 1918. It's been amended several times. I want to say 1920, 1921. It was amended again in 1929, 1938. And currently today we're working on amendments that we hope to release in 1920. That's the fourth requirement to establish 2020. Going back in time.
It is one of the original constitutions, if I may. There's only like about 5 copies of these in the state of Georgia. Wow. But for all members, we've duplicated the Constitution, so all members should have a copy of the Constitution.
Yeah,
same information,
right.
But this is how we printed out today. So make sure if you didn't get one, make sure you get one before you leave today. Good job.
The fifth requirement is recognition from other governments, and that's why I wanted you to note the documentation from Tony Martin, where we had branches in different nations. And if you understand the responsibilities of, well, the aims and objectives of the UNIA, part of our responsibilities was to have embassies in each of these nations. So we had several branches in several nations acting on behalf of our people, and we had a relationship with each of these nations at that time, and we're still working to rebuild those relationships. And lastly, the first 8 conventions of UNIA-ACL were all hosted in Harlem, New York, and I believe after that it was hosted in Jamaica.
No, the first 5 conventions was in Harlem,
Okay.
and the 6th and the 7th convention was in Jamaica, and the 8th convention of our government was in Toronto, Canada. This year is the 63rd International Convention. So the conventions that we as a people have been having is, this year will be 100-year.
Wow.
100 years we as a people have been meeting to discuss the issues that face our race. Yes. Yes, if you look on your schedule for 2020, you'll see in August the dates for the convention. Go on to August.
And that's in New York, right?
Yes.
Or be New York, okay.
And this year is the election year in the government.
Yes.
So we want our members to be educated so that way we can select who's going to be the next leader, who's going to sit in Marcus Garvey's seat when it comes to August 2020. So we have a lot of information to know between now and then. And currently, our current President General is the Honorable Michael Duncan. He's the 11th President General, or the 10th successor of Marcus Garvey. And we'll be hearing more about the convention and elections coming up in 2020.
Oh, sure.
Continuing Marcus Garvey from 1920 to 1940. And we were talking about, and part of this we were talking about some of the obstacles that Marcus Garvey faced as he built the UNIA and maintained the government of the UNIA. So there were 5 forces that we've learned that were working against Garvey. The first force is the United States government. We're all aware of the U.S. government. Prior to the creation of COINTELPRO, the U.S. government was working to derail Marcus Garvey and black nationalist movements that like the ones that he was creating. The second is the European powers. So anything that, because this was a global government, anything that did not threaten the United States directly was a threat to the European powers. So both of these governments were working together to diminish the authority and diminish the authority of the UNIA. Number 3 is communists. So in this time, communism was very big, and there were communists tried to come into the UNIA to remove some of our members. But we learned about this in Dr. Tony Martin's book, Race First. Wasn't very successful, but they still attempted to not only remove our people, recruit our people, but it also blurred the lines as to what the UNIA represented.